What's happening, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For the first session, we buy in for £265, take our seat, and yeah, I'm fast forwarding this one because it ended up not being a very interesting vlog, so I'm simply going to give you the end result of it. We played for about 5 hours, in for a total of £365, out for a total of 355, netting a small loss of 10 quid. So now let's jump ahead almost 2 weeks later to cover the next few sessions that follow. The first session of which, be warned, I think I played some of the worst poker in recent memory. However, talking through the mistakes not only holds me accountable, but also hopefully helps us learn from them. And I also try to be committed to show you the good, bad and ugly, to give you the full picture of the journey. As for the other two sessions, we play some more respectful poker, and one includes one of the largest pots to date, so let's get into it. We buy in for £255 at our regular 1-2 table, giving us around 130 big blinds to play with. The first hand of note is the Cowboys. We wait in the big blind hoping for some action, and eventually a fold to the button, who thankfully makes a min raise to £4, which is unusual. I bump it up to 20 and only the button calls, and we go out of position to a flop which gives us the world. 8-8 king. We pretty much have this board locked up already. I decide to check it to give my opponent a chance to catch up. We are also out of position. He checks it back. The turn confirms that this pot will be ours as we make quad kings. Now time to get some money in this pot, I feel. I bet 20, targeting pocket pairs, heart draws, or hopefully 8x combos. But that was it because he checked back the flop. He does make the call, and the river is the 9 of diamonds, which unfortunately doesn't change anything. I now, without as much thought as I would have liked, bet around pot, just hoping he doesn't believe us. But he's smart enough to let his hand go, and to be honest, I think a smaller bet on the river to get calls from pocket pairs is probably the way to go here, as we have all the kings locked up, and it could even induce him to raise, which would be the best case scenario. Realistically, he just is rarely calling a big bet on the river. I'd also prefer a larger turn bet, but anyway, we move. On to the next hand, where we pick up 10-8 of spades on the button. Hijack raises to £7. I just make the call at the bottom of my range. The small blind calls, and we go 3 ways to 5, 9, 2, 1 spade. Thankfully, action checks to me on this flop, so we can check back. The turn brings in a decent card for us in the 8 of hearts. But now the small blind leads out for 15 and the hijack calls. So I now start to think that it's a bit of a tough decision between a fold or a call, as both players could be on a flush or straight draw. So I do end up talking myself into a call, but I think folding is completely fine too, especially after hijack calls. The river brings in the king of spades. Now small blind slows down with a check, making me think he missed his draw, and we could be good with a cheap showdown until hijack leads out for 20. Honestly, I don't know if I believe he has a king, but I think if any of our rangers will have it, it's probably his, with a 2-heart Broadway combo or even a better 8x combo. I do end up folding, and we never find out what he has. Next hand, we raise pocket sixes in the low jack. Next to act is the most aggressive player on the table. He calls, and the big blind calls. 3 ways to the flop, which delivers 2 kings and a 7. No help to us. I bet £5 to remain uncapped though. Only the hijack calls. 8 of spades on the turn. I bet 2/3 pot. He calls again. Now after he calls, I think it's fair to say I should just give up here and give him credit for having a king. But my mind works in strange ways sometimes, because I punt another 55 quid down the drain because he snaps me off and shows a king. Not much to comment on this one. Just wanted to share my faulty play, and we move.
It's all going on the vlog. Is this vlog? Oh yeah.
Moving on, guys, we pick up 9-8 of hearts in the small blind. The straddle is on. There is a button limp. I raise to 20, only the button calls. We go out of position to a flop, which comes 10, 6, 3, 2 clubs. I think leading out is okay here, so I do. But for a small bet of £5, I think with the board as wet as this one, which connects quite well with our opponent's continuing range, we should be using a much larger bet here, like 75% pot. Opponent does make the call. Turn is the 3 of hearts. A good card for us, which helps retain our range and nut advantage, but I now slow down and check in order to continue the theme of making bad decisions. Now my opponent either has it or senses weakness in my play with a bet of 50 quid. Well played, nothing to do but fold. On to the next hand. under the gun now. We pick up a premium, the Jiggities. I raise to 7 quid. The aggressive player on the button calls, and we go heads up to the flop, which comes 7-2-3 rainbow. Great flop. I see bet small 5 quid, and we get raised to £15. Interesting, not much to do other than to slide in the call, and the turn comes what I think is a good card, the 3 of diamonds. I check and flow to the flop aggressor, who bets 25. Never folding, of course. I make the call, and the river is the 4 of spades. Pretty good run out. I probably have the best hand, but I want to gain thin value from his pocket pairs like 10s through 8s as well as 7x combos, so I lead out now and bet 45. But then button raises us to 165. Instantly, I feel like this is quite an easy fold and just an underbluffed spot. So after about 25 seconds, I do eventually make what feels like a very disciplined fold. And then he turns over ace 10 off. I think the main takeaway from this hand is that we don't need to lead the river when the hands we are looking to get called by would be betting themselves. On a separate note, in this moment, I am now feeling pretty tilted. And the best advice now would be to just take a step back from the table, but no, we march on. We add on £70, make a table change, but still feeling a little tilted from the previous hand as we pick up king 10 off under the gun short-handed. I open 7 and we go heads up with the cutoff to double 8 to rainbow. I lead out 7, which I don't think achieves much other than remaining uncapped. Cutoff does make the call. The turn is the 6 of hearts. This time we bet third pot and villain calls again, which means I'm probably going to give up unimproved on the river, and we don't improve. However, it is an ace, which for our range is great, so I go for the triple barrel betting 55, but villain eventually finds the call. Good call. Let me know what you think of that bluff. Does he have too many ace-x combos in his range? Maybe with the small turn bet he does. Anyway, I tap the table and move on.
Oh, my bad. I bluffed anyway. You were winning.
I then go on to lose 35 quid with ace king off after ISO raising to 20 pre-flop, the lazy bet and turn when I should have checked my showdown value driven hand and haven't fold when they then donk river. We then make 50 quid back with ace queen of clubs after double barreling a queen high flop. Moving along, we raise ace 10 off first to act 6-handed with the straddle on to 20 quid, successfully isolate the straddler. Flop comes 5 king 9 2 hearts, a clear c bet in position when he checks to us, but I make the mistake of not being mindful of the fact he only has just over a pot size bet behind with a c bet of 15, which is simply too large. He jams over it and we have no choice but to muck now. I think I just need to c-bet very small for like a 5 in such a spot when the effective stack is so short. We live and learn. On to the last hand of this mess of a session. We pick up the Jiggities with only 50 big blinds to play with, so you can guess what happens in this one. First to act, I raise to 10. We get 4 callers, not what we want. Hoping for a good flop, it comes just that when we see 4 10 3 2 hearts. I lead out for 15 as I don't think I can afford to give my opponents a free turn card as our hand needs protection from all those overcards. The low jack calls, cut off calls, but the button goes all in who covers us. We of course snap call and the cut off calls as well. A freeway all in. Either we come unstuck or are sent on our drive home. Good luck us. Here's what happens. Good luck guys. Oh well, home time it is. Here's my live reaction to that session.
No. Straight.
Just a quick outro, people. That was a brutal session. I sort of lost the plot. Went on tilt a little bit. I was a bit tired. I was playing tired. Look, there's excuses, but ultimately, I just need to improve. And guys, if any one of you know any poker coaches out there, send them my way. I think I need it. I appreciate your support as always. It's 5 a.m. It's time to drive home, and I will see you in the next one. Vegas does look like it's quite far away. Doesn't help the bankroll, but we move. Peace. 4 For transparency, the next session we played didn't make it on the vlog either, as there was nothing really vlog worthy. We made a net loss of £134 in that session. So moving on to the final session, where we bought in for around £250, and 2 hours in we've been retaining that same stack amount as we pick up pocket jacks in the low jack. With the straddle on, I raised to 17, which is a little small, could go to 20, but we do just get one caller, so we go heads up with the button to a wonderful flop of 9 for rainbow. We have the range advantage on this board. I see bet third pot out of position. He calls, turn is a blank, 3 of spades. If we were ahead on the flop, we are ahead now. This time I size it up to 2/3 pot and he calls again. The river is the 8 of hearts, which shouldn't change too much. It's quite possible he's hit a set of 8s. However, a more likely holding is pocket 10s, I feel, which is a hand we could get some thin value from. So I bet again, this time for just under half pot. If he raises, we can fold. However, villain goes into the tank and after 50 seconds decides to let it go, and we gain a healthy chip boost from this hand. In the cutoff now, we face an under the gun limp and then an £8 raise from the hijack with ace queen off. I raise to 25 to isolate and go heads up in position with not the hijack but a surprising cold call from the small blind, who only has £51 more behind. Flop comes 4 ace jack 2 clubs. Small blind checks as standard, and of course this is a great board for us. Small blind only has just under a pot bet more behind. I think we can bet really small, just go all in here, but I decided to just go with a 25% pot bet to not scare him away and get him more invested in the pot, and he does make the call. Turn is the 8 of hearts, which doesn't change anything. Decide it's time to pull the trigger now. I'm all in. He quickly calls. 9 of hearts on the river. We show and drag another decent pot in. Next we get a 5 high bluff through with 5-4 of spades and win a tenner.
Not going to make very exciting content.
No, definitely not.
Before looking down at pocket 9s in the big blind. Straddle on, low jack limps, hijack raised to 25, and I just make the call and the low jack calls. 3 ways we go to 7 queen 7 rainbow. We check as standard out of position, and the good news is it checks through to a clean as you like 3 of hearts on the turn. I bet 35 into 80. I think my thinking is simply protection from high rivers. We end up taking it down, which is a great result, but not too sure about the play. We move though. Chipping up nicely now as we sit with a healthy 200 big blind stack. We pick up the jigglies in the +1. We open to 8 and only the +2 calls, whose range should be quite strong. However, flop is an interesting one. 3-4 and a magical jack on a monotone board. I check under the gun to bets 10. We just make the call hoping for a non-spade turn. Ace of spades. We check again and now he bets a large £35 into 39. This is quite strong since the ace will hit our range, and players tend to telegraph the strength of their hand with the size of their bet. I will not automatically give him credit though for a flop flush, but rather potentially a lower set or 2 pair is more probable, and hopefully that is the case. I decide to raise it to 80, which is just too small if I want to get all my chips in, but can't change it now. He now goes into the tank. 20 seconds, 30 seconds, 40 seconds goes by, and then makes the call. I feel a little more sure that he doesn't have a flush just based on timing of that call, but anyway, the river is the 5 of clubs. I think the 4-liner to the straight can be disregarded. He shouldn't really have a 2, so feeling good on this river. I have 300 more pounds behind. There is 200 in the pot. I think jamming will look too strong, so I elect to bet 50% pot, and for that price he quickly calls, showing ace of spades, jack of diamonds for 2 pair, so we drag in a big one here. Let's go, but can't help but feel should probably have raised large on the turn. But let me know your thoughts overall on this hand. Now sitting with an even healthier 300 big blind stack. We are deep in the big blind. Pick up the snowmen waiting for their action to reach us as 3 players limp before us. I raise to 25 £5, hoping that should be enough to go heads up, but we do get 2 callers, 3 ways to the flop, which is not the best. Queen of hearts, 10 of hearts, 4 of hearts, we don't even have a heart, so I'm pretty much ready to give up. But after I check, the hijack checks and the button checks back, giving us some hope. The turn is not the 8 we are looking for, but another overcard in the jack of clubs. However, now again, arguably bad idea, good idea. My image is tight, which means my opponents are going to give me credit for ace king a lot of the time. Ace king is now a straight on a monotone board. I'm also out of position and both players checked back, making me think it's unlikely either of them has a queen. Feeling like I'm almost certainly not going to win this pot by checking, I take my only chances of winning this hand, instead make a bet of £25. Hijack folds, but the button sticks around and makes the call. The final card is one of our outs in the 9 of spades, gives us the idiot end of the straight. Without the need to bluff anymore, a value bet for 50 quid, targeting 2 pairs I feel, but he lets it go rather quickly and we scoop up yet another nice pot here, running hot I think. Let's go. Session has been going as smooth as you like so far, just keeps giving as we now pick up the big slicks. First act, I raise to 8. Now a little concerning as under the gun +2 bumps it up to 28. Furthermore, low jack calls and then the super loose reg on the button flats. Action is back on us and we have a critical decision to make. I think a squeeze is the mandatory play here. We are never folding or calling, so the question is just what size do we go for? The effective stack is 530 quid on the button. Being out of position, I want a better size and that will get everyone to fold, to be honest, especially under the gun too. So I go for a £135 sizing. And the good news is under the gun 2 quickly folds. Low jack mucks as well. However, the button takes about 2 whole minutes before deciding to give us a spin. Flop, please be good, comes double 5 jack rainbow. Shit, this could get costly. Decide to lead out for £100 and he very quickly calls. Oh boy, come on turn. Turn is however not quite what we wanted to see in the 2 of clubs, which now means in my head we have only 2 options: check fold to any bet or go all in and rep and overpair on this blank. However guys, I tank for a solid 4 minutes. It feels like forever, and eventually come to the decision that this guy is probably just not folding to a shove. So I check, and after he bets £100, I do the maths. Jesus Christ. I do the maths and calculate we need 14% equity versus a middling pocket pair, and we have around 12% using any ace or king as outs. So it's close, but after having taken 4 minutes, I think it looks weak now, and so I make the fold. He never reveals, although he claims after the hand he hit trips, and then before he left the session claimed that he had just had 9 high. So who knows what to believe, but it doesn't matter. Anyway, I think the best play would have been to jam the flop as played, or just bet much larger pre-flop to like 170. I think 135 is just too small. Maybe with aces it's fine because we want to get called, but out of position with ace king 170 to earn ourselves more fold equity again anywhere we move.
What's your name? Sorry.
On to the final hand of the vlog, where we call things off with a 4-way limp pot with queen jack off in the cutoff. Flop comes jack 8-2, giving us top pair good kicker. Action checks to me and I bet 6. The button and big blind make the call. The turn is the 4 of hearts, bringing in the flush draw. I barrel 16, only the button calls. 7 of clubs on the turn. Now 10-9 is a straight. I feel like I could bet again initially, but then feel like triple barreling in a multi-way pot with just top pair could be too thin. I'm not too sure, so I just check, and our opponent bets 50. He will have all combos of 10-9 off, as it is a limped pot, as well as 3 combos of pocket 2s. However, I think the key point to note here when starting the hand reading is that his range is extremely wide pre-flop, being on the button in a limped pot. It's then filtered slightly on the flop and again on the turn, but then after we check river, his range gets kept fairly wide still for him to have to micromanage and potentially make some bluffing errors. On top of that, I sense some nervous energy, so I flick it in and he taps the table, and that brings this session to a close, where we were in for a total of £316 and out for £456. That is a little bit more like it. Although after those 4 sessions, well, the first 3, we would have reset our bankroll back to 0, and now it's back up to £140 after that final session. Meaning now we just need a net profit streak of £4,860 to reach Vegas. Nothing to do but keep going and improve it. Shame about the ace king hand there. Maybe I should have raised larger pre-flop. Guys, I just appreciate all your support, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.